Hey everyone. Nowadays we are all getting great help from agentic AI and how it is helping us throughout our projects, milestone, sometime it helping us becoming a reviewer, sometime a debugger, and many more in different scenarios. It can switch heads pretty quick. Today, my focus is to introduce you to one of my favorite called Kiro. I have it on my screen, Kiro.dev. You can actually check it out. If you haven't heard about Kiro till now, or if you would like to see how you can best utilize it, not just for AWS, it's pretty deep in terms of analyzing, in terms of helping you out. So without a further ado, let's jump right into how we can get started with Kiro. So right over here on my screen, there are options here to download. As I'm on a Mac, it's giving me an option to install on Mac OS, but you can directly go to documentation and install on different operating systems. Kiro not only comes in terms of IDE, but also has the CLI features as well. I'm not going to deep dive on all of those, but there are very neat documentation which you can actually go through. One thing I just want to talk about, there are several MCP servers. There are something like steering documents which we are going to dip our toes into. So as part of this, let's do something really cool. As you probably have noticed in my previous video, I'm pretty much into Kubernetes environment. Although mostly I have worked into AWS Kubernetes, but I started my career with Google GKE. So what we will do is we'll give a prompt to Kiro, which I have Kiro IDE installation on my system, and we will run through multiple scenarios like how we can utilize the specs, how we can generate the steering documents, what sort of MCPs I'm going to use, and all sort of it. So a prompt is very important now. So I've already written a prompt and I will share this prompt in the description of this video. The prompt is like build a production grade GKE. I just don't want to start with something like MVP, something a minimal viable product. Basically, I want to start something really heavy with production grade GKE cluster with Autopilot so that I don't really have to worry about upgrading those clusters and all sort of things. I'm saying let's create the steering document first. Steering document is basically talking about the things which I'm including. You probably have worked on Terraform. It comes with the version here, which is what you see right over here. I'm basically specifying that. Then I have three specific tasks here. One is the bootstrap. The bootstrap is something because I don't want to store these state file in my local. It's basically utilizing, or it's basically creating a Google bucket, which it's going to store those state files in. And then the cluster. So this is going to create a custom fork, basically a container cluster with enable autopilot, just like how I mentioned, with some of the features like really enterprise grade. And then there is an app. So I'm basically just making sure that from the cluster, it passes down the information. And because it's a production grade, it deploys a separate namespace with the resource quota and the limit range. Default deny all net poles, which is network policies, and explicit allow ingress on port 80. This is going to utilize this image. It's going to be the cluster IP plus load balancer service. And then the next is it should generate a README document. Then at the next step, I'm saying like all three modules uses Terraform init. Use Terraform init, validate plans and apply in sequence. So let's run the bootstrap first, which has the local backend. Then deploy the cluster, then deploy the app using GCS bucket from the bootstrap. After cluster apply, get credentials. So after the cluster is deployed, to make sure the app is getting deployed, basically doing that and validating apps. And this is where the hooks, which I was basically telling. So every time there is a file which ends with .tf, it's just making sure the Terraform validate runs. In terms of I'm doing any editing to a file which ends with .tf, it should basically just do a diff in terms of Terraform format, just to analyze what changes it is. And also because in some time, things gets deprecated pretty quickly. Just make sure that it basically validates the schema on the registry. And here is the optional thing, which is like tear down, because I said like it's a production grade, but it is not. It's still MVP, but I'm just trying to test the power of Kiro. right? So I'm making sure that I have an option to destroy this environment, and to destroy it has to destroy the app and the cluster, and then optionally the bootstrap in case I have to delete. And because I have I have the deletion protection on the cluster, make sure that it disables that. So what I'm going to do next, so this is how it looks right now. I only have this prompt.empty file. Really don't have to save this file. You can just pass on the prompt right over here. So I have opened a option here, which is my new session. And there are two options here. One is the vibe and the spec. I can click on any of those. The spec is more advanced in here because it's like planning first. It will create those documentations first, which you can actually review and say that, okay, the things are looking right. And based on that, it will generate. So what I'm going to do is I can just ask to pass this file as well, but I'm basically passing on the entire prompt here and just hitting it enter. So let's see how it takes further. And here are several questions, and it's saying, it's basically suggesting some recommendation. It's saying like, this sounds like a new feature. So what we will do is we'll select first option, which is build a feature. So let's do it. And what do you want to start with? Requirements. So technical design, as this is a recommended one, I would say let's start with the requirements. And it will start kicking things off right now at this point of time. One thing right over here, this ghost sign basically shows like if you already have any specs in this. So there are no specs, there are no hooks right now, and there are no steering documents right over here. I do have some MCPs installed. If you are working a lot with Terraform, you can actually install the Terraform MCP as well. But right now, because it's one of our first thing is create a steering document. So what it is doing is it is basically putting all of that information in the requirement. So it's generating the requirement. And right over here, what you see is the context usage. The reason in our prompt why I'm giving, include it on the file match.tf file only, so that, this context is not overutilized, because as and when the context is overutilized, these agentic models start hallucinating, start predicting things. Although Kiro is pretty powerful because Kiro comes with the capability to roll over to the new session with all the history of the previous session included. So it's basically summarize and pass on to the new session. So with that, requirement is ready for you to review. So let's go ahead and let's review the requirement. At the bottom of it, what you can see an option to preview this as well. So first requirement is creating a steering file. So it's basically generating the steering file with the backend bucket name. That looks good. The bootstrap module, GCS state bucket. Then the cluster module from custom VPC. So it basically is going to create a VPC with GKE Autopilot cluster. And the fifth one is the app module. The sixth is the README. And then is the deploy workflow. One of the thing is, the hooks, you can say something like, as and when I do a commit, you can go ahead and run the pipeline. Maybe you have some, code sanitization practices or something like that, which you can also trigger as well. And then the last requirement is the tear down requirement. So far, I don't see any problems here, but if you see any problem in any of the line, either you can specify over here, or you can just select, and there are several options, but in terms of visibility, I'm just showing you can specify a chat option here, which I'm going to probably not going to do it here because I don't see any problems, but we'll see in next section. So as we have reviewed this, we can click on continue, and we can say Right now, one of the option, I would first see the design before I generate the task. So let me create the design section itself. So what it will do, it will basically generate a design.md file. Which you can see it's actually doing it right over here. All right, so the design file is right here, which it is creating. So as you can see, mostly the design part is completed over here. Let's quickly review this right now. So here is a design.md and look how beautiful it is coming. Let me put this on a side for a second and even on this one on a side. I'm not going to go line by line, but you can see the Terraform modules. You can see how it's going to store the backend. What is the requirement here to use the version? How's the architecture looking like? Not in terms of the cluster, that's not our desire here is, but in terms of like how these modules are going to be interrelated. What is the deploy sequence? It's looking pretty good to me. And there is a tear down sequence, basically making that sure as well. And components is going to do. So it's going to include a string file, the bootstrap, the cluster modules. There are these features. It's going to include like release changes. So this is one of the variable here. And what's going to include in app like namespace.tf, main.tf, network policies, deploy.tf. So it understands everything. And then it also going to create Kiro.hook, which we have talked about, and you will see in action how those will look like. And like I said, there are going to be 3 README files per module and 1 in general. And there are blocks here, like what sort of data, what we have to pass. So like as an example, the project ID, the bucket name, giving a lot of information and really pretty good information. And here are the things. So in case you would like to change something, like the CPU as 2 and the memory as 4, you can actually also make that change here as well. What is the image it's going to use, how much memory it's going to be used, what is the network policy, do you want to allow some different IP addresses, so those kind of things. So let's try and make one change here and let's see how it reacts basically. So one of the things which I saw and which was right over here. So what I'll do is I want to increase it a bit. So open the inline check. You can also utilize the other one, but I'm going to say what the CPU request and the CPU limit. Let's keep it same. Let's reduce because there is a lot of gap which I don't see. So let's reduce a difference in min and max by 1. Request.cpu to 3 and request dot memory 7. So let's do that. I just hit a char as return, and what it is saying is that this is the change and you have to just hit accept here. So I'll just hit an accept and the file is saved. So to me it looks pretty good. So what I can do is I can click on continue. And as you can see, the requirements are done, the design are done. The next is the task. So it's moving now to the next phase, which is task. Will be pretty much dependent on our requirement, what we have done. And you know how requirement came is because how we have given the prompt, right? So based on that, it would be changed. So here it is saying that moving the task generation now. The design mention fast check TypeScript. So I will say let's do that. So now it's creating the task list. All right. So most of the things are coming up. Basically doing create a steering, set this, and on top of the steering, and we'll see like how it will look like. Specify this version and sort of other things. So there are several tasks which are not yet completed. And one thing to note at this point, like what we are seeing is a specs. We are not seeing anything in terms of a steering, a documentation, like how the document is going to guide the agent, right? And we are not seeing the agent hooks as well because those are developing over the task when we are going to execute those tasks. So right here, what we can see, it is still working through the task, and here it says the task document is ready. for 11 top level task, and this is going to be steering file and scaffolding. So this is going to be incrementally with the steering file and scaffolding with the process what we have talked about. So if we just quickly look into task list and just check it right over here just to make sure that nothing missing out. This is updated actually right over here. Let me just hit the review and implement the bootstrap, implement the cluster mode. It's going to update it again and implement the app mode. Here is a checkpoint. So it's doing the Terraform validate, create the agent hooks, create the documentation, most of things, and final checkpoint. So, and one thing to note here, it's saying like tasks are marked with R asterisk are optional. So if you want to see the task like this one, so write property test as an example, write cluster mode output, completeness, and all of things. So these are like most of the tasks into 10 are optional. And it's saying the test framework, and I don't think we need this all. So what we can do is we can also mark this task and completely the task number 10 as optional as well. So what I'm going to do is, and I could have done right over here as well. So I can do is I can mark this as a star and even this as well. We can also ask Kiro to do that, but it's just good sometime to do things as you're thinking through as well. So now I don't see anything else. So how to execute this? And there are a couple of options. So from task.d, you can see here is an option like run all tasks. So it's going to execute one at a time. But what we can also do is so that we can see like how things are. So let's just start with the task here, and you can see there is an option which just got executed, and we'll see how it's going to scaffold those things as well. It's creating the steering documentation from task.md file. So what you will see another file over here, and if you will hover over here, you will see a steering documentation as well over here. And this is the Terraform GCP.md file, which you can see right over here, Terraform GCP.md. And you can see here is the file match. So anything which ends with TF is when this file is going to be included. And this is the reason for that, so that our context usage is not increased. Although these are very small files, so it won't be necessarily too much, but it's one use case which I just wanted to share with you all. If you hover over here, you can see there is a steering document here as well, which you can click over and see that. As the task number 1 is completed, we can actually start on task number 2. And one thing to note here, what it is saying, the task is done, and it's giving the summary. It's giving you like what basically has done. It also has created these directories here as well. Right. Task number 2, I don't have to really wait at this point because let it create, and it's just going to do everything. And I'm taking a pause here, coming back when everything is done. So here at this point, create cluster Terraform, implement app modules. So I'm okay with task number 6 as well. And checkpoint, it's going to validate everything. And after this, once we are passing this point, that it will create the agent hook, which I will share with you like how it's going to do as well. And then it's going to do readme, and then there are the tasks which we have marked as optional. You can just click on it here and make this task as required as well. And then here is the final checkpoint, which is full validation and everything as well. So I think this task also can be optional as well. I don't think there is a need of it. Let me take a pause here and let these all tasks running, which you can, if you are running and following me through, you can actually follow right over here. So some of those might be actually looking for your inputs as well. Like task number 2 as an example is basically looking for an input as well, which is for this command, Terraform bootstrap initialization. So it's initializing the bootstrap right now. There are a couple options here. So next command, it's basically validating. So if you feel like any command like Terraform plan or Terraform validate or something like that, what you can do is you can just trust that command as well. And instead of the entire command, you can trust. I would not suggest this one, but I'm just going to suggest this one. So next time it's not waiting for you to hit apply condition over there. Similarly, I could have done for FMT as well, which is just a format. As you see, most of these tasks are actually completed right now. Just to quickly go over each one of these, how you can see everything is showing as completed, what it is created. There's a good summary at the end of task 4 as well. There were some problems which it noticed right over here. Instead of me feeding it to, because of our prompt, it says, go ahead and look into the registry as well. So it basically started analyzing those, like what variables are missing, and then including those accordingly. And similar to task 7 as well, it basically performed everything. So let's go ahead and let's enable the task, which is agent hooks. And what it will do is, like I was saying here, so there are no hooks right now. What it will do is it will create those hooks, what we have specified in our prompt. So create an agent hook from tasks.empty, and the first hook it is creating Terraform validate, which it is running here. It basically runs the Terraform when any of the .tf file is edited to ensure that there is a consistent formatting. The linting isn't there, as an example. Then similarly, there is a Terraform validate, then there is a check in terms of the registry. Like suppose you include some variables which supposed to be Boolean, but you include it as a string. So those kind of things, it's going to check and making you informed about those changes. All of these task 8 are done. The next is the documentation. So it's basically creating documentation, and we could have actually asked to add a task over here to basically run and deploy these changes as well, or we can just simply go ahead and ask. And I will ask task to apply Terraform for all 3. So now it's doing apply Terraform in all 3 modules. So Terraform initialization, Terraform apply for bootstrap, Terraform init, which is basically utilizing the bucket name for the cluster, and then it's just doing gcloud CLI to containers cluster get credentials for our GKE cloud, for our GKE cluster, and then it's doing the Terraform apply for the app as well. I think it looks okay to me. I will just hit OK here, and the task is now created. One thing which I see, it's part of the task 9, but I can change it to task 10 as well. And as the readmes are created, these are the prerequisites. So we need to have Terraform installed, the CLI installed. We need to have a proper authentication to our Google Cloud. There are some handy steps which you can actually run. In terms of tearing it down, you can actually do a destroy app cluster and the bootstrap later on, and all of that's pretty good looking actually. Specifically, it's talking about the things what included in here. The similar thing goes for the bootstrap and for the apps as well, like what are the deny all rule in terms of the network policies, in terms of deployment, what it is, in terms of services, how it is, outputs and everything. I think that looks okay to me. Let's go ahead and let's run the task 10 right now. In Kiro, you can actually open a terminal as well. You can see what commands it's running, so that in case you have to review the output natively as well. I can see the task 10 is actually completed, and you can see it has started creating the bootstrap first. So it applied and created the bucket, the blob storage, and then it started creating the Google Compute Network and the subnetwork, which is a subnet, then cluster with all of those variables what we have defined. It took some time in order to create the cluster. That's the time cluster actually takes in background to start the control plane and everything. And then it went ahead and started applying the apps. It created the deployment with 2 replicas, and that started with the limit range and everything else. And then it ran few sanity checks in order to just see if the pods are running. So here is the nginx, these are the network policies, these are the services, so cluster IP as well as the load balancer. So let's look into the Google Cloud right now. Under the cloud storage, let's go to the buckets here, and you can see there is a bucket which is just created today. We can see the state file for the cluster. So let's head back to our cluster, which would be under Kubernetes engine. I can see the cluster right over here is actually created in mode autopilot. We see the workloads, what we have deployed, the nginx service that should be coming under workload. Here is the namespace, which we deployed in demo. There are 2 replicas, 2 are ready, 2 are available. These are the active version, and you can see the service. So if we hit on this service, we can actually see the nginx page. Well, that's pretty much I wanted to showcase today. So you can see like how from the empty workspace, just with one prompt, how Kiro actually helped, created all the documentation and as well as the code, and not just basically the code, but also have implemented the code. Like I said, the hooks are pretty useful at a time, because in some cases you may have to make some changes in order to the resource quota, and you would like to apply those changes. So you can write your hooks accordingly, which will make those changes in the development environment for you to test those as soon as you save the file or something. Thanks a lot for watching the video. I really appreciate your time. I hope this was helpful.